I've seen it all today. Cyclones are going to win their second Big 12 championship outright.
In 2003, Iowa State lost a great ambassador and beloved friend in Pete Taylor. Over the next hour, John Walters will visit with Pete's best friend and partner on the Cyclone Radio Network, Eric Heft. They'll look back on 10 memorable moments in Iowa State athletics history and the graceful way that only Pete could have described the impact of those moments. 10 great Pete Taylor calls. But first, a look back at what Pete meant to Iowa State fans.
That's going to do it. Here comes the team, here comes the fans, and there go the goalposts. Iowa State has upset Nebraska.
Whenever I go around and talk to Cyclone fans anywhere, I mean, they have such fond memories of Pete, you know, and he was the voice of Iowa State. And even though now, John, you and I, we have many listeners, there weren't nearly as many TV games back in those days too, so he was maybe an even more important lifeline to a lot of our fans who couldn't come to the games or for road games. So he was one of a kind. You knew where you stood with Pete all the time. You knew how he felt, but he was always accurate and he was fair. And I think that's one of the things that I think fans appreciate. They don't care if you want one team to win over another, especially if you're broadcasting for that team, but they want you to be fair, and I think Pete really was.
Pete was fair and honest for sure, but you had no doubt which team he wanted to win.
2 seconds, 1 second, Iowa State's on the way to the final 16 in the country. 72-69 over the 5th-ranked Michigan Wolverines.
You lost some really heartbreakers, and it's like, we care who wins, definitely. As you said, we're invested in it, and you watch some friends of ours who are doing TV for the Big 12 or Big 8 network, and they just leave, and it's like, hey, that was a great game, you know. And it's like, yeah, well, killing me. And say, how lucky are those guys, you know? And then you have a great win, you know, one, and they leave, and they don't really care one way or another, and we care, and that's why, you know, people talk about the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, you know. And for me, and I know for Pete, the thrill of victory was always much more rewarding than the pain of the agony of defeat.
This one's over. Iowa State has won 17-14, and maybe the biggest game since the series was resumed in 1977. What a game.
And since fans were sharing that same joy or agony, they felt like they really knew Pete, even if they never met him.
You tend to listen more when you have a guy who's talking on the radio that you know you can trust, and on some level feel you know. And maybe some of it came from his years at TV8 as well, you know, when he was, you know, on TV and they saw him there, they identified with his voice. But he was Iowa State. I mean, there's just no getting around it. He was the front porch of the Iowa State athletic department. And I will say this, it was a front porch that was always very well kept.
And that front porch included no catchphrases.
He doesn't like things that are contrived, never liked them. You know, I don't like them either. It's just, you know, it's the Dick Vitales, the Jim Romes, you know, and while they're fine, some people like that. You can't be that if it's not you, and that certainly wasn't Pete. You know, and the beauty of Pete was he was better than those guys without any of those catchphrases because he came up with it on the spur of the moment.
42 seconds to Tinsley, drives up, good! He's fouled, the basket counts! Jamal Tinsley putting on a clinic. Oh, what a move by Marcus Fizer! He drove in and absolutely tomahawked it over Chris Mihm.
Those things were never scripted out, and you know, he would scoff if anybody ever suggested that had been the case.
Now he's giving ground, goes around to the 10, to the left side, to the 5, touchdown! Oh my goodness, what a run by Wallace!
And if I might, I will say, I got to be the luckiest guy. I've done this a long time, and the years I got to work with Pete, I cut my teeth with Pete. We had a blast traveling on the road, you know. And after his death, you know, I got to work with you, John, and that has been, you know, I don't think anybody could be any luckier to draw the 2 straws that I've drawn in this business.
March 16th, 1986, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and the NCAA tournament. Iowa State was coming off a thrilling first-round victory over Miami of Ohio on Jeff Hornacek's buzzer-beating jumper. So the stage was set for a second-round battle with Big Ten champion Michigan. Now keep in mind, Iowa State had a terrific team that year. At 9-5, the Cyclones had finished second to Kansas in the Big 8 conference race. But as a 7 seed, the Cyclones were still a big underdog against a Michigan team that had finished the regular season ranked 5th in the nation. Johnny Orr, the legendary Michigan coach, would now put his Iowa State program up against his former assistant, Bill Frieder. Late in the game, poised for the upset, Pete Taylor and Eric Heft call one of the most memorable baskets in Iowa State history.
So Iowa State's Hornacek will inbound here at 64-63. Jeff having trouble, gets it to Elmer for a breakaway, and he slam dunks it, a two-hand dunk. 66-63, Michigan right back, Relford up for the shot, no good, Tarpley with a rebound, lost it, Hornacek with a steal, out to Elmer Robinson, all the way down court, layup is blocked, a foul is called. Oh, Elmer was in the action that time. Oh, what a play, inbounding the ball, Hornacek having trouble getting the ball inbounds. And Elmer cut for the basket, a sharp pass, and it had to be crisp to Elmer. He took it in, and I mean, jammed it home.
Well, Eric, certainly one of the most memorable basketball games in Cyclone history, with Johnny Orr going back and beating Michigan and doing it against all odds. And I'm sure for you and Pete, a great thrill to call that game.
It was a great thrill. It was one of the seminal moments, I think, in Iowa State basketball history. You know, the Cyclones hadn't been in the NCAA tournament since like 1944. They made it the year before, lost in the first round, but just the whole atmosphere, Metrodome, huge crowd, and of course Johnny playing against Michigan. That was unbelievable environment. And the fact that Iowa State was able to win, I've heard many people talk about, you know, Dick Stockton calling the game and varsity versus the JV in terms of the size. Those are some of the most satisfying wins, and sharing that with Pete was just awesome.
Ron Virgil, 7 of 8 in that game, 14 points, and that dunk by Elmer to kind of put it away. There were a ton of Iowa State fans there, so it kind of probably felt like a home court game there.
And no question, it was a great crowd, and they configured the Metrodome a number of different ways, but they were so close there, right behind you're kind of on a stage, but to see Elmer break to the basket and get hit with the pass and throw it down, I wouldn't say it totally locked it up, but that was the first time you could almost allowed yourself to believe, hey, we're going to win this.
Let's take one more look and listen on that Elmer Robinson dunk to help put away the Michigan Wolverines.
So Iowa State's Hornacek will inbound here at 64-63. Jeff having trouble, gets it to Elmer for a breakaway, and he slam dunks it, a two-hand dunk. 66-63, Michigan right back, Relford up for the shot, no good, Tarpley with a rebound, lost it, Hornacek with a steal, out to Elmer Robinson, all the way down court, layup is blocked, a foul is called. Oh, Elmer was in the action that time. Oh, what a play, inbounding the ball, Hornacek having trouble getting the ball inbounds. And Elmer cut for the basket, a sharp pass, and it had to be crisp to Elmer. He took it in, and I mean, jammed it home. Just when Iowa State needed a basket in the worst way, it was a hectic 16 seconds. So Elmer, his 7th point with a big exclamation point right there as he jammed it through. Hornacek with a beautiful feed, found him breaking away. I'll tell you, Johnny Orr has more inbounds plays, and his assistants, let's give them credit too, than any other team I've seen in the country. They can score off of it. It's amazing what they can come up with. It's 72-67. Gart Thompson, no good. Rebound Rice. He puts it up and through. 2 seconds. 1 second. Iowa State's on the way to the final 16 in the country. 72-69 over the 5th-ranked Michigan Wolverines. Man, I tell you what, this is a great day for Cyclone basketball. The Cyclones are savoring this moment at the center of the court. 72-69. Iowa State has knocked off the 5th-ranked Wolverines, the number 2 seed in the Midwest. And Iowa State's going back to Kemper Arena next week. How about those apples?
October 12, 2002, Ames, Iowa, Texas Tech and Iowa State. The Cyclones had won 5 straight games and moved to number 11 on the Associated Press poll. And Seneca Wallace had emerged as a contender for the Heisman Trophy. But on this night, Wallace would go from contender to frontrunner with one of the most memorable plays in Cyclone history. And the call by Pete Taylor and Eric Heft was every bit as memorable as the play itself.
Here's Wallace pumping, looking, running to his right, looking, and he's going to be almost caught. Now he's running at the 25 and runs down the sideline, back to the 10. Now he's giving ground, goes around to the 10, to the left side, to the 5. Touchdown! Oh my goodness, what a run by Wallace.
Well, that is so reminiscent of the play at Nebraska last year. He gives ground. You know, I was about to say throw it away, throw it away. He's back at the...
He was going to run out of bounds at about the 25.
He got a great peel back block at the end as he cut it back at about the 15. He's crossing at the 10, got one great block and another huge block from Mike Wagner.
What a run by Seneca Wallace.
Well, Eric, that call of that play is just etched in the memory of Cyclone fans, and I guess what people might not remember is it was only a 12-yard touchdown run, but he ran a lot longer than that.
But it was about 120 yards in terms of what Seneca ran. That was an unbelievable play. You're thinking, well, don't turn it over here, don't turn it over. He's flushed, he runs back.
Gave up 20 yards.
Great athletes sometimes can make plays in the most improbable situations, and Seneca did. He had the speed to cut it upfield, reverse field. I don't know if he thought he was going to get into the end zone when he reversed field, cut across downfield, but Mike Wagner with a bone-crushing block got him into the end zone, and you know that was those were heady times right there. That was coming on the heels of the Nebraska win a couple weeks earlier, and to get that win over a really good Texas Tech team, a team that Iowa State had struggled against. Great to see, and just the electrifying atmosphere it helped create Jack Trice Stadium, and you always knew that was a possibility with Seneca, and man, did he deliver that one.
Well, Iowa State propelled up to number 9 in the country, into the top 10 for the first time in school history, and Seneca Wallace had to be one of Pete's favorites because he made plays like that. He made a run against Nebraska in Lincoln very, very similar to that one.
He made a lot of plays, you know, with his legs, you know, and I think one of the things that Pete and I really liked about Seneca was he was so fast and so athletic, but he was one of the most accurate passers in Iowa State history. He could throw the deep ball on the money. He had good touch on the ball. That's why he played in the NFL for a long time, but he not only had that ability to run and break plays and make unbelievable plays, he could do it with his arm too, and a true dual threat quarterback.
But this one will be memorable for the run, and that's all it's called, is the run. Let's listen to Pete's call one more time.
Here's Wallace pumping, looking, running to his right, looking, and he's going to be almost caught. Now he's running at the 25 and runs down the sideline, back to the 10. Now he's giving ground, goes around to the 10, to the left side, to the 5. Touchdown! Oh my goodness, what a run by Wallace!
Well, that is so reminiscent of the play at Nebraska last year. He gives ground. You know, I was about to say throw it away, throw it away. He's back at the...
He was going to run out of bounds at about the 25.
He got a great peel back block at the end as he cut it back at about the 15. He's crossing at the 10, got one great block and another huge block from Mike Wagner.
What a run by Seneca Wallace. Clock runs out, and Iowa State's won a big one, 31-17. A great performance by the Cyclones, and Eric, this team continues to do what it has to do to win big football games.
November 14th, 1992, Ames, Iowa. 7th-rated Nebraska was the visitor and a 29-point favorite over a struggling Iowa State team. But on this day, an unlikely hero would emerge to lead the Cyclones to one of the most stunning upsets in college football history. Pete Taylor and Eric Heft captured the most magical play of a magical day at Cyclone Stadium.
First down play, and it's Seiler keeping, trying to turn the corner. He does. He pops through the 30s to the 40, to midfield, to the 45, to the 30, to the 25, to the 15, to the 10, to the 3-yard line. Marvin Seiler almost breaks it all the way. 77 yards to the Nebraska 3.
It's just the type of play that you expect Nebraska to run against Iowa State. They get that option play to the corner. Marvin cuts it up. Really pretty good defense, except nobody able to get the angle on Marvin Seiler. He cut it up. And Marvin's not the fastest guy in the world, but I tell you what, he's a lot faster than people give him credit for. did a great job not to fumble as they tried to strip him from behind as they made the tackle and drove him all the way to the 2-yard line.
He's got to be gassed.
Well, Eric, I'm not sure that there's a more memorable run in the history of Iowa State football, and it's hard to say when you've had guys like Troy Davis, but Marv Seiler's 78-yard run certainly stands out in Cyclone history.
It does. I mean, that game was one that, if you look on paper, it's a total mismatch. Iowa State, a huge underdog. And I remember Bob Devaney saying that week that this might be the best Nebraska team of all time. And pretty high praise. They had just defeated 2 top 10 teams by 40 points or more back-to-back weeks coming into Jack Trice Stadium. Not a tough place to play at that time. But boy, Iowa State found a way, just hung in there with some defense. And Marv Seiler, a senior, getting the first start of his career, unbelievable in that run. Is one you're thinking, just hang on to the ball, and didn't quite get it to the end zone.
That touchdown was the one that did it.
Well, it was a 12-10 game at that point, you know. So if you go 3 and out, you punt, you're punting to them, and they've got a chance to score and win the game. Instead, you're up 2 scores. A huge play in that game, and happy for a guy like Marv Seiler. Really, there's so many guys in football programs that are around for 4 or 5 years and never get that moment. But here's throwing a bone to somebody who hung around and made it pay off. A great moment for him, and certainly a great moment for Iowa State.
And a great call by Pete Taylor, and let's listen to it one more time.
First down play. And it's Seiler keeping, trying to turn the corner. He does. He pops through at the 30s to the 40, in midfield to the 45, to the 30, to the 25, to the 15, to the 10, to the 3-yard line. Marvin Seiler almost breaks it all the way. 77 yards to the Nebraska 3.
It's just the type of play that you expect Nebraska to run against Iowa State. They get that option play to the corner. Marvin cuts it up. Really pretty good defense, except nobody able to get the angle on Marvin Seiler. He cut it up. And Marvin's not the fastest guy in the world, but I tell you what, he's a lot faster than people give him credit for. He did a great job not to fumble as they tried to strip him the tackle and drove him all the way to the 2-yard line.
He's got to be gassed. A 70, a very smart play. First and goal for Iowa State. Ball is at the 3-yard line to give us to Ulrich. He's driving, and is he in? Let's see. He's right down on the goal line.
He was in, I'm sure. They haven't given him. Yes.
Touchdown, Iowa State. Ulrich carries it in. Touchdown, Cyclones. It is 18-10. Well, Marv Seiler sets it up with a 77-yard burst. And Ulrich carries it in on first and goal for the touchdown. Seiler goes down to one knee, and that clock will run. And you hate to overdo superlatives here, but this may be the biggest upset Iowa State has ever had. It is 19-10, the clock running with 40 seconds to go. An incredible effort by Iowa State this afternoon, and they're going to win this football game. There's nothing Nebraska can do about it.
But the defense held the Huskers scoreless in the second half, the #1 offense in the nation.
Seiler goes down to a knee again, and that's going to do it. Here comes the team, here comes the fans, and there go the goalposts. 10 seconds to play. Iowa State has upset Nebraska, winning for the first time since 1977. What a turnaround. Iowa State goes from losing at Manhattan, Kansas, to coming home and knocking off Nebraska, a team that has just steamrolled everybody here in recent weeks. And not only upset them, Eric, they've done it convincingly because they did it with much more total yardage in this ball game. They stuffed them in the second half, and they win it by a score of 19-10.
September 28, 2002, Ames, Iowa. Number 19 Iowa State versus number 20 Nebraska. The Cornhuskers had been ranked in an NCAA record 348 consecutive weeks, dating all the way back to 1981. But Dan McCarney had his program on the rise. Seneca Wallace, Lane Danielson, and Michael Wagner were the offensive stars, and the Cyclone defense held Nebraska to 273 yards in a dominating 36-14 victory, one that was summed up in perfect fashion by Pete Taylor and Eric Heft.
As they'll come to the line of scrimmage
leading at 36-14. A wallop on Davis to end the game. This one is over. Here come the fans streaming onto the field. The happy Cyclones joining them. And you know what, Eric? This may not be the Nebraska of old, but it's certainly the Cyclones that knew.
I couldn't have said it any better, Pete. You're exactly 100% right. Iowa State came out today and dominated Nebraska physically, and that just frankly doesn't happen, hasn't happened. I'm not going to go so far as to say it signals a changing of the guard, but I think Iowa State's arrived as somebody that has to be contended with in the Big 12.
That call at the end of the game, so appropriate by Pete. Nebraska had spent 21 consecutive years as a rated team, and here they were coming in to Jack Trice Stadium, and Iowa State was actually rated higher than they were, and Eric, just a dominating victory.
A dominating victory, you know, and even at that, I don't think a lot of people, even though Iowa State was rated higher, I think a lot of people felt Nebraska was the better team and they were going to find a way to win the game. But that was a moment, and Pete nailed it, no question about it. It was really the infant stages, maybe the third year of Iowa State rising and becoming a Big 12 North power and playing very well. And maybe Nebraska on a little bit of a decline, but it was a dominating performance. And once again, it was great. It was great to be there alongside Pete to see that one. You know, he and I, and him more than I, spent some time in Lincoln and games and Ames, where it was the other way times 10. So that was great. It was a great moment. It was Pete's last Nebraska game.
It was such an appropriate call to end it, and a dominating effort on both sides of the ball. A lot of guys were good offensively. The defense held Nebraska under 300 yards.
You know, that's something that Iowa State had not been able to do for a long time. Nebraska had that juggernaut offense, but Cyclone defense was getting better under Dan McCarney, and great performance by all, and a great summation by Pete at the end of the broadcast.
And let's hear it one more time.
On a 3rd and goal, here's Wallace looking, throwing, and it is caught. Touchdown, Lane Danielson on the slant.
Well, great job by Lane Danielson.
Wallace, the quarterback, as he sprints out to his left, chased, and runs back the other way, breaks one tackle. Now he's on his feet at the 40, 45, 50, 45, 40, near sideline, out of bounds at the 30-yard line. And they look to throw to him. It's intercepted by Brown, 30, 25, 20, 15, all the way to the 9-yard line. Brandon Brown, who had to almost run earlier, comes up with a big one right now.
Another good drop by Brandon Brown right into that zone.
2nd and goal at the 7. And Wallace rolling to his right, running at the 5. He's in! Touchdown! Seneca Wallace takes it in. He's fed by the linebacker. Touchdown, Iowa State. And the Cyclones counter off a Nebraska turnover to make it 32-14. Stuntz stands in the pocket again. Now runs out of it and may try to run with it and tries to get out of bounds, and he's helped out of bounds by Woodley, who puts his shoulder into him and bangs him out.
Wow.
He says they'll come to the line of scrimmage, leading at 36-14. A wallop on Davis to end the game. This one is over. Here come the fans streaming onto the field. The happy Cyclones joining them. And you know what, Eric? This may not be the Nebraska of old, but it's certainly the Cyclones that knew.
I couldn't have said it any better, Pete. You're exactly 100% right. Iowa State came out today and dominated Nebraska physically, and that just frankly doesn't happen, hasn't happened. I'm not going to go so far as to say it signals a changing of the guard, but I think Iowa State's arrived as somebody that has to be contended with in the Big 12.
36-14, the Cyclones beat the Huskers, and the fans out celebrating in the middle of the field. Goal posts at the north end are already being worked on. Now they're heading down to the south end, and they've never been brought down since they had the new ones installed, but they're going to get a true test after this one. So for the 4th time in 34 years, Nebraska has been defeated by Iowa State.
September 28th, 1996, Ames, Iowa, Missouri versus Iowa State. To this day, Troy Davis is the only player in the history of college football to rush for 2,000 yards in back-to-back seasons. And a good chunk of that yardage came at the expense of Missouri on this day. Davis had 41 carries for 378 yards and 4 touchdowns in a 45-31 victory over the Tigers. At the time, it was the 3rd highest single-game rushing total in NCAA history, and Pete Taylor and Eric Heff described every juke and cutback to perfection.
2 receivers and a 10-man front right now for Missouri. Here comes the blitz. It's the option to pitch to Davis. He's around the left side. 35, 30, 25, 20. Cuts back to the middle at the 15, at the 10, 5. Touchdown! Troy Davis on the option pitch from Doxson goes all the way for the touchdown. 40 yards running all over the field. He started left, came back across the center, and took it all the way.
When you compress your defense into the middle of the field, if you can get outside, you're going to give a guy like Troy Davis a tremendous opportunity, and that's exactly what happened. Then Troy got the first down, and he was motoring downfield, cut back, had some great downfield blocking from the 4 wide receivers, and took it into the end zone, 40 yards for the touchdown.
298 yards on the day. They give it to Troy again, and he bounces off the pile and moves ahead to the 41. 4 more.
Barry Sanders, LaShawn Johnson, and Marshall Faulk.
Pretty good company. 3:49. It's 3rd down and about 5.5 yards to go. Let's call it 6 for the first down for Iowa State with 58 seconds remaining. Long count here by the Cyclones. Missouri looks like they want to blitz in this situation. It's off to Troy. He cuts it back. He's at the 20-yard line. At the 15, at the 10, the 5. Touchdown! Oh, my goodness. Troy Davis all the way on 3rd down for another score and 30 more yards.
Unbelievable. 43,000 people here knew Troy Davis was going to get the ball. Missouri stacked everything they possibly could. Troy did it. Cut back, start that sweep to the left, he cuts it back. Such a great cutback runner. 30 yards and a touchdown. Broke a tackle at about the 20-yard line, and it was all over.
It's 45 to 31. Davis with a 30-yard touchdown run. His 4th touchdown of the ball game. A 14-point lead, 379 yards rushing. I've seen it all today.
Eric, certainly a couple of great calls by Pete. Troy had such a memorable day, 378 rushing yards against Missouri. And as Pete mentioned at the start of the one highlight, Missouri with 10 guys up front trying to slow down Troy. Everybody knew he was going to get the football. He still was unstoppable.
Troy was unstoppable. He was such a great back, and that day the line blocked well. But Troy had such an ability, a very unique ability for a running back, especially one his size. He punished the tackler. He never let that tackler come up and hit him. We didn't saw he was going to get hit if he couldn't avoid it. He hit that tackler, and so many times knocked him off stride, and he was able to break tackles. The year before, it was the last game of the season at Mizzou. He had over 200 yards, went over the 2,000-yard mark in Columbia. I think he was carrying a lot of confidence, and this was an earlier season conference game this year. But what he did that day, time after time after time, and that last run where he jukes and makes the cut and goes into the end zone, 378 yards. What an unbelievable performance. It was an honor to watch Troy play, let alone be able to call his games.
Well, and for Pete to wrap it up saying, I've seen it all today. That's exactly right, because you'd see every kind of run from Troy.
You would, and Pete had seen a lot. We'd seen a lot of great backs here, Iowa State backs, and certainly, the Billy Sims, the Barry Sanders of the world. But what Troy did that day was something that's never happened to Iowa State or for Iowa State since.
Let's watch one more time as Pete Taylor sums it up.
And the give is to Troy Davis. He cuts it back at the 30. He's going to go. 20, 10, and a touchdown, Troy Davis. Iowa State back on top. Boy, he popped it over the middle, saw room to the outside, and man, what a run. Did he get to the outside in a hurry, Eric?
Just lateral movement that time. Troy cuts it upfield.
2 receivers and a 10-man front right now for Missouri. Here comes the blitz. It's the option to pitch to Davis. He's around the left side. 35, 30, 25, 20. Cuts back to the middle at the 15, at the 10, 5. Touchdown! Troy Davis on the option pitch from Doxson goes all the way for the touchdown. give it to Troy again, and he bounces off the pile and moves ahead to the 41. 4 more.
Barry Sanders, LaShawn Johnson, and Marshall Faulk.
Pretty good company. 3:49. It's third down and about 5.5 yards to go. Let's call it 6 for the first down for Iowa State with 58 seconds remaining. Long count here by the Cyclones. Missouri looks like they want to blitz in this situation. It's off to Troy. He cuts it back. He's at the 20-yard line. At the 15, at the 10, the 5. Touchdown! Oh, my goodness. Troy Davis all the way on third down for another score and 30 more yards.
Unbelievable. 43,000 people here knew Troy Davis was going to get the ball. Missouri stacked everything they possibly could. Troy did it. Cut back, start that sweep to the left. He cut. Great cutback runner. 30 yards and a touchdown. Broke a tackle at about the 20-yard line, and it was all over.
It's 45 to 31. Davis with a 30-yard touchdown run. His 4th touchdown of the ball game. A 14-point lead, 379 yards rushing. I've seen it all today.
September 14th, 2002, Iowa City, Iowa. Unrated Iowa State had won 4 straight in the series with the Hawkeyes, but third-rated Iowa was favored on its home field, and it looked like the streak might come to an end, with the Hawkeyes jumping out to a 24-7 halftime lead. But Seneca Wallace would spark an incredible comeback, and Pete Taylor and Eric Heft were along for the ride, one great play and one great call after another.
Lewis stays in the backfield. Second down play. Banks to throw. But lost the football, and Phillips comes up with it for Iowa State. Banks just simply lost the handle, and the Cyclones come up with the football. Whitfer on the left side with Danielson. They're going to blitz off the right side. Seneca throws, slant route, touchdown! Touchdown, Iowa State. Here's Banks looking to throw. He drops the football. Iowa State's got it at the 20-yard line. Tim Brink comes up with it as Banks was trying to throw it. He couldn't get his motion moving forward. Knocked loose and recovered at the 20. He'll be in the shotgun. 24-21 in favor of Iowa. Wallace looks, fires, and it is caught. Touchdown. Nope. He's out inside the 1. Danielson with what may have been a one-handed catch. There's Wallace, hands to Woodley, he dives, touchdown. Woodley into the end zone, touchdown. Iowa State has taken the lead. And on a first down play, it'll be Greving in the backfield, getting the handoff, and he is caught and thrown back in the end zone. It's a safety. They get Greving pinned in the end zone, a safety for Iowa State. And I'm not sure who made the stop.
Jordan Karstens.
Looks like Jordan Karstens, and he got him for 2. Third down and 11 for Iowa State. They're at their own 5-yard line. And Wallace chased, running left. Now fires across his body, caught by Whitfer. First down at the 34. What a play. Spotted at the 26-yard line. It's down. The kick is up. It's long enough. It's good. Beneke delivers. Iowa State's up by 9, 33-24.
5:19 to play.
And that should do it. That will do it. They don't have to snap it again. Iowa State has made it 5 in a row in the most unlikely of ways, coming back from what looked to be a brutal beating in the first half, down 24-7. They win it 36-31.
You know, Fred Hoiberg came in here in the
Good
booth
luck,
at
isn't
halftime,
he?
and he is our good
The
luck
mayor
charm.
is still with us.
He's still got it.
5 in a row, and are these Cyclones going to be happy after this one?
Well, certainly one of the most memorable football games, much less Iowa State-Iowa games, in the history of Cyclone football, when you talk about trailing 24-7 at the half on the road against a highly rated team, and Eric to come back and beat them on the road. What an incredible moment. I know you and Pete had to have a blast calling that one.
We did. You know, I will say we didn't have as much a blast in the first half. You know, down 24-7, and you're thinking, okay, well, it's a four-game streak over Iowa, probably going to come to an end here. But we had a little secret weapon in our booth that day. You know, Fred Hoiberg was in town, and he sat up on our booth, and actually we brought him back later that year for the Nebraska win. So he was even as a basketball guy, he had a couple nice assists on football games as well. But at halftime, yeah, you're thinking, well, you know what? You know, it's 24-7. Iowa State has the ball to start the second half. If we could just put something together, get some points, you know, make them think about it a little bit. And boy, that's what happened. Seneca took them right down the field, scored the touchdowns, 24-14, a couple of Iowa turnovers, and I don't know if I've seen very many games turn as fast as that did. And then at the end, you're trying to hold on and making plays. You've actually taken control of the game. I remember the one play, though, where Iowa State has it deep in their own territory, I think inside the 10-yard line, going against the wind, and third and long, and Seneca rolls out against his body, rolling to his left, and throws one to Jack Whitfer around the 30-yard line. What an unbelievable play that was to keep a drive alive, and I can't think of another quarterback who really has been capable of making that kind of play. Unbelievable play by Seneca, and a huge play in the game, a real demoralizer for Iowa at that point.
361 passing yards in that game for Seneca Wallace, and for Pete, who had called all 15 of those losses in a row to Iowa. Just the feeling of going into their stadium and making it 5 straight had to be pretty special.
It had to be very special, you know, and I think back to, you know, he saw all those, and while it's a shame that Pete's no longer with us, that was his last Iowa game, and a place where he actually went to school, but was a true Iowa Stater. It became over the years. I guess somewhat fitting in that regard. Unbelievable, and I just remember in the parking lot, in the ramp after the game, Pete and I had some really good moments, just enjoying that one and listening to Sound Off.
Let's take a look at Pete's call of a great Iowa State victory one more time.
So it's back to the 5, and it's 2nd and goal for Iowa State. And they'll run the option the other way. Seneca keeps it. Touchdowns. He pulls it inside. He's into the end zone. Lewis stays in the backfield. 2nd down play. Banks to throw. Lost the football, and Phillips comes up with it for Iowa State. Banks just simply lost the handle, and the Cyclones come up with the football. Whitfer on the left side with Danielson. They're going to blitz off the right side. Seneca throws slant route. Touchdown! Touchdown, Iowa State. Here's Banks looking to throw. He drops the football. Iowa State's got it at the 20-yard line. Tim Tibrink comes up with it as Banks was trying to throw it. He couldn't get his motion moving forward. Knocked loose and recovered at the 20. He'll be in the shotgun. 24-21 in favor of Iowa. Wallace looks, fires, and it is caught. Touchdown. Nope. He's out inside the 1. Danielson with what may have been a one-handed catch. Here's Wallace. Hands to Woodley. He dives. Touchdown. Woodley into the end zone. Touchdown. Iowa State has taken the lead. As Yelp kicks off high and deep again. Lewis fields it. Fumbles, then he's out of bounds at about the 4-yard line.
What a perfect kick by Tony Yelp to the sideline.
And on a 1st down play, it'll be Greving in the backfield getting the handoff, and he is caught and thrown back in the end zone. It's a safety. They get Greving pinned in the end zone, a safety for Iowa State. And I'm not sure who made the stop.
Jordan Karstens.
Looks like Jordan Karstens, and he got him for 2. 3rd down and 11 for Iowa State. They're at their own 5-yard line. And Wallace chased, running left. Now fires across his body, caught by Whitfer. 1st down at the 34. What a play. Spotted at the 26-yard line. It's down to kick is up. It's long enough. It's good! Beneke delivers. Iowa State's up by 9, 33-24.
5:19 to play.
Banks will be in the shotgun, takes the snap, throws it out, and there's a man open. It's Henkel who drops the football. Cluess has got it. Cluess has got it. Harold Cluess rips it free at the 30-yard line and falls on top of it.
Wow, what a huge play. A really good play by Iowa. Nice throw by Brad Banks. But another mistake for the Hawks.
Well, this one will be spotted a little bit longer this time at the 28. It's down, it's up, again long enough. It is good again. Beneke, 2 for 2. A 38-yarder this time puts him up by 12. 36-24. Kading lines it up. He's going to come to the near side with the kick. And it all boils down to this. Here it comes. The kick bounces around. Danielson's got it. And he hung on. What a play by Danielson. He got it. One hopper took it right in the midsection. He got belted and hung on to the football. Well, he's a strong kid, and he comes out of there with that football. And that should do it. That will do it. They don't have to snap it again. Iowa State has made it 5 in a row in the most unlikely of ways, coming back from what looked to be a brutal beating in the first half, down 24-7. They win it 36-31.
You know, Fred Hoiberg came in here in the booth
luck,
at halftime, and he is our good luck
The mayor
charm.
is still with us.
He's still got it.
5 in a row, and are these Cyclones going to be happy after this one?
December 28th, 2000, Phoenix, Arizona, and the Insight Bowl. With 8 victories, Iowa State was having a wonderful season, and the perfect cap would be the first bowl win in school history. It was a tight game with Pittsburgh, but early in the fourth quarter, Iowa State finally got some breathing room, thanks to a breathtaking play by freshman Jermaine Billups. Pete Taylor and Eric Heft captured it perfectly.
Here's the punt, and it spirals out now, kind of wobbles out. Billups makes the catch. 30-yard line, 35, up to the 40, midfield, he's down the sideline. He might go! Touchdown, Jermaine Billups! How about that? The freshman with his first punt return goes 70 yards for the touchdown. Jermaine Billups, he got one block out there on the right side, and he just outran everybody. 33-20, an electrifying punt return by Jermaine Billups. Game is over. Iowa State has won it. 37-29 over the Panthers of Pittsburgh. Their first bowl victory in history.
Well, Eric, there were at least 30,000 Iowa State fans in Phoenix to check out the Cyclones and get their first ever bowl victory. But the game was in the balance really until Jermaine Billups took off on that punt return, and he hadn't returned many all season. It was usually J.J. Moses.
You know, it's kind of funny because Iowa State recruited Jermaine as a running back. He was a true freshman that year, and he wanted to play. Didn't really get much playing time. Eventually ended up being an outstanding safety for Iowa State. But J.J. Moses got dinged a little bit earlier, couldn't answer the bell, if you will, or heard bells, and couldn't be back for the punt. So you've got a true freshman back there in a clutch situation. But fortunately, it was a true freshman with a lot of ability, and the excitement in Pete's voice, I think, was felt by everyone in the stadium, every Cyclone fan watching it anywhere. Unbelievable call, unbelievable play, and Iowa State had so much pent up excitement about going to the Insight.com Bowl at that time because they hadn't been to a bowl game in 22 years. And to be able to go there and win, wow. And with the key play being a punt return, not much more exciting play in football than a great punt return, and that was one.
And you could hear the excitement in Pete's voice rising a notch as Jermaine worked his way down the field, and when he yelled he might go, man, what a great moment in Iowa State history, their first bowl victory.
Yeah, and that was great, and fortunately we've been able to have some since then, but that first one sometimes is the hardest one to get, and it was a great job by the whole Iowa State team, but Jermaine with the big play and Pete with the great call.
And let's listen to it one more time.
Here's the punt, and it spirals out now, kind of wobbles out. Phillips makes the catch. 30-yard line, 35, up to the 40, midfield, he's down the sideline. He might go! Touchdown, Jermaine Phillips! How about that? The freshman with his first punt return goes 70 yards for the touchdown. Wow. All Jermaine Phillips. He got one block out there on the right side, and he just outran everybody. 33-20, an electrifying punt return by Jermaine Phillips. Game is over. Iowa State has won it. 37-29 over the Panthers of Pittsburgh. Their first bowl victory in history.
February 22nd, 2000, Ames, Iowa. The Cyclones had been picked to finish 6th in the Big 12 race, but by now they had positioned themselves to compete for the conference championship. Standing in the way were 2 home games against highly rated opponents, Texas and Oklahoma State. The Cyclones would win both games, proving that nothing was going to stand between them and a Big 12 championship. And in doing so, Big 12 Player of the Year Marcus Fizer proved that nothing could stand between him and the basket.
Fizer in traffic, takes it in and stuffs it over Mim. Oh, what a move by Marcus Fizer. He drove in and absolutely tomahawked it over Chris Mim.
Larry, Iowa State was trying to win a Big 12 Conference championship, and they had 2 home games, Texas and Oklahoma State back-to-back, and they knew they probably had to win those 2 games to win that title. And Marcus Fizer was just unbelievable in that game against Texas.
He was. You know, he had an unbelievable performance. He had great cast around him, but to set the table for that, you mentioned Oklahoma State and Texas at that time. Iowa State was about a game ahead. Iowa State had to play both of those teams in the same week. It was a big opportunity. You know, Iowa State was late to get the national publicity. Even though Iowa State was leading the Big 12, Iowa State was number 17. Texas, who was behind Iowa State, was number 14. So there were still a lot of question marks because of a couple early season losses Iowa State had. So this was a really big game. This was the first of the 2. And the play that we just heard the call from, unbelievable play. 2 top 5, top 6 draft picks. Chris Mim, a 7-footer, and up until about now, the all-time leading shot blocker in Big 12 history. And for Marcus to go over a 7-footer, you know, Marcus probably legitimately 6'6", sticks it in the basket, and you know, a defining moment in the game. Iowa State had control, but that's the exclamation point that says, you're not getting back in this one. We're going to take this one all the way to the house.
Yeah, Iowa State was not ranked that year until February, which is just hard to imagine, but that was the case. How much fun was that for you and Pete to call that season? I know you guys both loved Larry, and just to see Iowa State start with low expectations and go out and accomplish what they did that year was unbelievable.
You know, it was, and I think sometimes those are the most fun years. Some years you think you're going to be good, and if you are, that's great too. But it's a surprise enjoyment you get out of a year when you haven't made the NCAA tournament for a couple of years. You think you've got some talent, but you lose to Drake early, then you lose to Cincinnati. But after that Cincinnati game, I still remember Larry. It was in Hawaii early in the season, the championship game of the Big Island Invitational. And Cincinnati was really good. They had Kenyon Martin. They were going to be a #1 seed in the NCAA tournament. And after the game, it ended up being a 15-point game, but Iowa State had played as like a 5-point game with about a minute and a half to go, and then it was free throws. And I remember Larry asking Bob Huggins, he said, well, what do you think of my team? And Hug thought for a minute and said, second, no worse than third in the league. Well, that's a 12-team league. And Larry says, really? And Larry was thinking we might have a chance to be pretty good as Jamal Tinsley really started to take over and make more assists and fewer turnovers. And of course, Marcus just started taking over. Unbelievable season, one of the most fun years I think I've ever had broadcasting games, and I know Pete felt the same way.
35 points in that game for Marcus Fizer, and the exclamation point with the dunk over Mim. Let's hear Pete's call one more time.
He'll bounce it to Fizer. Fizer in traffic, takes it in and stuffs it over Mim. Oh, what a move by Marcus Fizer. He drove in and absolutely tomahawked it over Chris Mim.
November 24th, 2001, Ames, Iowa. It was a unique setting for the Iowa State versus Iowa series. The tragic events of 9/11 had pushed the game back to November. As usual, Seneca Wallace was outstanding, completing 20 of 27 passes. And Tony Yelk's field goal early in the fourth quarter had pushed Iowa State in front 17-14. And with Pete Taylor and Eric Heft on the call, senior Adam Runk would make sure it stayed that way, ending Iowa's final drive of the game.
2 left, 1 right. McCann straight back to throw. No pressure. He throws. Picked off by Runk. 45. Runk with the interception at the 43-yard line. Iowa State's got the football.
Kevin Durandi buried Kyle McCann on that one, I believe. He threw it high. Pressure makes passers throw interceptions.
Dan McCarty gets the Gatorade splash. The clock runs down. It's to 10 seconds. This one's over. Iowa State has won 17-14, and maybe the biggest game since the series was resumed in 1977. What a game. Both sides need to be commended. They played like hell throughout the game, and Iowa State wound up winning by 3 points.
A big win for Iowa State. Beat 7-4, had 4 straight over Iowa. It is a Cyclone state.
The Cy-Hawk Trophy stays in Ames, a 4th straight year.
Well, Eric, the Iowa State-Iowa game had been pushed back that year because of the events of 9/11, and it was unusual to see the two teams play at the end of the season, and the game came right down to the end. What a great game.
It was a great game, and I look back and I think of early in the year, you thought, well, would it be better for Iowa State to play Iowa later in the season this year? Would we be better off playing early in the year? A lot of question marks about both teams, and certainly Seneca, that was his first year at Iowa State. We didn't know what to expect in a big game like this, but when the tragic events of 9/11 occurred and it was moved to the end of the season, both teams were able to kind of point toward that, and for Iowa State to have it at home, a big crowd, a lot of big plays in that game. But I remember one play in particular where Seneca makes a bad decision, throws an interception, but Craig Campbell, wide receiver, comes back, strips the linebacker. Iowa State gets the ball back and almost is able to run the clock out. But still very, very engaging game, very close game, and a great win for Iowa State, because that was the 4th win in a row after Iowa State had lost 15 in a row. You're kind of sensing, okay, not only are we back even keel, but maybe we've got the upper hand.
And it sent Iowa State to another bowl game, and just that feeling of Runk making that play at the end to kind of clinch it had to be a special moment for you too.
No question, and he made a couple plays like that. He made one at Missouri as well. A heady player, a guy who was a baseball player, really good baseball player in high school, but a good athlete. The guy just knew how to make plays, and that one kind of saved the day once again for Iowa State.
Let's hear Pete Taylor's call of it one more time.
2 left, 1 right. McCann straight back to throw. No pressure. He throws. Picked off by Runk. 45. Runk with the interception at the 43-yard line. Iowa State's got the football. Dan McCarty gets the Gatorade splash. The clock runs down. It's to 10 seconds. This one's over. Iowa State has won 17-14, and maybe the biggest game since the series was resumed in 1977. What a game. Both sides need to be commended. They played like hell throughout the game, and Iowa State wound up winning by 3 points.
A big win for Iowa State. Beat 7-4, had 4 straight over Iowa. It is a Cyclone state.
The Cy-Hawk Trophy stays in Ames, a 4th straight year.
March 3rd, 2001, Ames, Iowa. The Cyclones needed one more win to clinch back-to-back Big 12 championships. Nebraska put up a good fight, but in the end, the Huskers were no match for Jamal Tinsley. The Big 12 Player of the Year scored 23 of his career-high 29 points in the second half. And with each big play by Iowa State's talented point guard, you could sense that Pete Taylor and Eric Heft knew that Tinsley was not about to be denied another Big 12 championship.
Iowa State taking time off the clock. Tinsley with a move on Fields, up and good!
Jamal Tinsley with another bucket. 77-69. 1:47 to go. Augustine to his right. On the move. Inside, knocked away. Bradford's got it back. Jump blocked by Shirley. Tinsley's got it. Down court. Off the glass. Good! Jamal Tinsley! He has taken this game over. It's 79-69. Oh, this place is now a madhouse with 1:18 to play. Then Horton's got it. 42 seconds to Tinsley. Drives up. Good! He's fouled. The basket counts. Jamal Tinsley putting on a clinic. And man, that ought to do it, Eric. 83-71. He'll go to the free throw line.
I think Larry Stacey wanted him to pull it out, but Jamal knew there were 2 points on the end of that play, and now maybe 3.
What a performance by Jamal Tinsley. He saved the best for last, Eric. When they needed it the most, he came up the biggest.
Cyclones are going to win their second Big 12 championship outright.
Well, Eric, an incredible individual performance by Jamal Tinsley in that game against Nebraska to allow Iowa State to cut down the nets. 23 points in the second half, and he did take over that game, literally.
He did. He was an unbelievable player, you know, and not a guy who was known as a scorer necessarily. But if he had to get points, he would get points. You know, you go back 2 years that Jamal and Cantrell Horton played, never lost a game at Hilton Coliseum. You know, won back-to-back Big 12 championships. You know, unbelievable run. But he was the guy, and I think it's borne out by his long NBA career, but he's the guy that could make plays that very few in this league have ever been able to make, but a clutch performer. Great play at the end of the game. Nebraska really hanging in there. Cookie Belcher, I think he was all defensive team in the Big 12 3 or 4 times, and they put him on Jamal, couldn't stop him. And I just remember that basket, you know, you had that feeling something good was going to happen, and it did.
Well, in that season, Eric, to come back and win another Big 12 championship, I think a lot of people thought Iowa State was a flash in the pan with Pfizer, but to come back and defend it, amazing.
Well, to lose Marcus Pfizer, I mean, that was huge. But you also lost Stevie Johnson, and you also lost Mike Nurse. And those two guys were really key contributors too. So to put it back together again, you've got to have some glue. And certainly Jamal and Cantrell, those guys were the glue that really made it happen again.
Well, Pete had so many favorite players at Iowa State through the years, but I think Jamal Tinsley has to be right up there toward the top, don't you?
Absolutely. We talked about it many times. And watching Jamal, the ball was on a string when he had it. You know, he was, you know, he would make turnovers, commit turnovers at times. He never turned it over in the last 5 minutes of a close game. He knew when to try something risky and when not to. A joy to watch, and he had that swagger. Not too many guys could back up calling Allen Fieldhouse just another gym.
He did. Let's take a look at the clincher, so to speak, against Nebraska here at Hilton Coliseum with Pete Taylor on the call.
Iowa State taking time off the clock. Tinsley with a move on Fields, up and
Good! Jamal Tinsley with another bucket. Inside, knocked away. Bradford's got it back. Jump blocked by Shirley. Tinsley's got it. Down court. Off the glass. Good! Jamal Tinsley! He has taken this game over. It's 79-69. Oh, this place is now a madhouse with 1:18 to play. And then Horton's got it. 42 seconds to Tinsley. Drives up. Good! He's fouled. The basket counts. Jamal Tinsley putting on a clinic. What a performance by Jamal Tinsley. He saved the best for last, Eric. When they needed it the most, he came up the biggest.
Cyclones are going to win